All right, so chapter 3 and 4 of How to Be a Stoic Using Ancient Philosophy to Live a Modern Life. Um, my very initial response to these chapters was that I thought chapter 3 was an excellent introduction of the overlap of Stoicism with other schools of thought, and chapter 4 was a lot of rambling that I had a hard time keeping my mind focused on.
I absolutely agree with you on chapter 4. That was a whole lot of words that didn't say very much, in my opinion.
I
I,
have to third that because it just felt like he got distracted, being like, it's like when you see a tweet where someone tries
Yeah.
to say something and then they like have to come up with every possible um whataboutism that
Mhm.
someone might come at them with.
so it's the Twitter defense. How you're not going to misinterpret my tweet because I'm gonna I'm gonna cover all of it.
We're gonna cover everything.
Yes.
I didn't even get to chapter 4, and that kind of scares me
You
because
didn't
I
miss
kind of feel like
anything.
chapter 3 is rambly as all hell already.
Oh no, no. Compared to chapter 4, chapter 3 is very organized and to the point.
That frightens me. That frightens me just a little bit.
This man needs an editor.
Oh, I did. Does he not? Did he not have an? I mean, I'm sure he
We
did,
have
right?
no proof he didn't have an
His
editor.
editor. His editor
Some
needs an
editors are
editor.
His
bad.
editor needs an editor.
um, what I
You need a
did
different
like,
one then.
what I did like was the polling of various philosophies, right? So we start off with God grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot, blah blah blah. But I like that it doesn't come from some kitschy little area. Instead, I got this from Slaughterhouse Five, and it changed my life. I'm like, okay,
I feel like a lot of people think that way about Kurt Vonnegut books.
yeah. And then some other initial thoughts I had. I liked where he talks about this ancient version is make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. And then the rest of the quote's also really good, but I'm not going to bore you with reading it to you. Um, but that first sentence is very strongly one that I'm trying to learn to live by, generally speaking. Um, just because I have so much life stuff going on, I got some health problems going on, and being faced with my mortality a couple times. I'm just trying to take things as they are. What can I actually have power over versus what do I just need to learn to accept as it comes? Um, so then, as he points out, there's a lot of parallels between these teachings and the influence of Stoic wisdom that gets widespread all across the centuries, as he says. What did you guys think of any insights that I didn't catch in this area?
I the start of the parrot one day not so long ago, having recently read Vonnegut's novel, I was walking in the Roman Forum and I was like, oh fuck off.
You pretentious jerk. What do you?
If you axe that and just read through, it works.
I mean, you could
He-
probably skip the gelato as well.
yeah, yeah. Like, come on.
Do you feel like the author is trying to tell us how cool he is?
Absolutely.
He's like, look how neat I am.
Does he also not know what cool is? Also, I think.
You know, it reminds me of when I went to Paris and I was walking down the Champs Elysees and reading Sartre, and Sartre said to me,
Mm.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
So I didn't read the first two chapters because I've been real busy with work stuff and family and whatnot. But I, d- I didn't manage chapter 3. I didn't get too far into chapter 4. But
Mhm.
I kind of got the feeling like I think it's from the writing style maybe that some of it might be the trying to make it a little bit more I don't know if I want to use the word relatable, but in a like, oh, I was just like, I do regular human things too. Like,
Look,
philosophy is a kind of unapproachable topic for a lot of people, but if I talk about it in this way, like, I was reading a book when, well, a sort of the narrative style
yeah.
of it sounds similar to other books I've read where people are just trying to say, I'm imparting profound knowledge to you, but I'm also a regular person who came about this in a way that similar to maybe how you live your life, but also it's completely disconnected with that
Hello,
because
fellow
most people
kids.
don't do that. Yeah,
How,
Yes.
how much
but
could a banana
it sounds
cost?
like that.
$39?
Right. Well, I mean, it is 2023.
I I think my issue here is, and maybe this is a bit accusatory, the timeline he set up for his discovery of Stoicism and how he came to be a Stoic. And then one day not so long ago, but specifically he's talking about this issue he has with what Epictetus is saying, make the best of use of what is in your power. If you recently had to come to the discovery that like some things are in your power and you can control how you react to them, and that was like something that you didn't agree with until recently, were you a Stoic? I just feel like there's a lot of bullshit
Mm.
framing
Well,
what he's trying to say.
this does feel like a book on Stoicism written by the least stoic person.
I mean, he seems like a philosopher that likes Stoicism rather than a Stoic that's writing philosophy.
Mhm.
Yes.
But he is making the point with this, one day not so long ago paragraph that what Epictetus said is incorrect. Insofar as your impulses, desires, and aversions aren't solely up to you, other people influence that. And all you really have is the ability to say whether you will act on it or not. And you do have some say in what your, say, public office is or your reputation based on your behaviors, etc. So he is, as a philosopher would, pointing out how this other philosopher isn't quite right, but has a good point.
Mhm.
Well, I think he goes on in this chapter to circle back around and be like, oh, but Epictetus was actually right.
He does.
Oh no.
Yeah.
He does that.
So-
In fact, I'm pretty sure it's on the next page.
Yeah.
Uh,
He was no
Yep.
intellectual slouch. He must
Yep,
have
there it
meant
is.
something different from the literal reading of his words.
Okay.
So, don't give him too much credit, Max.
It's hard not to. I
I
want
mean-
them to be okay and good.
I mean, okay. I will say you're coming at this like this dude is not writing for philosophers.
mhm.
Clearly.
All right. But yeah, I mean, he's writing for people who don't know what the hell they're doing, and I'm sure there are people this will reach.
Oh yeah, I mean
That is what I will say about that. I'm sure that there are people that this is the exact voice to speak in.
it's hashtag relatable enough, I'm pretty sure. It's just a little
Oh.
unfortunate. Yeah, man.
You just shortened my life 10 years.
Ouch.
Good.
It's true. That was painful.
Okay, Bay fam.
I appreciate you, Max.
Thank you.
All right, now that we're all preparing for our early deaths,
Well, we're reading the good book for it.
this is a
Yeah,
good book
well,
to
and
prepare.
he talks about his own brush with death here.
Is that what that is?
I mean, the
How many of us have not
what is
choked
it that
on
happens on the
gelato?
flight?
I mean,
Well, according to him, the plane almost landed on another plane.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty messed up. I will say.
yeah, that would have been a bad time.
I very much want to know how that sort of thing happens.
Uh,
I actually saw there was a recent incident similar, I think at Gatwick, where they had been cleared for takeoff, and it's the map that they actually use in the towers where it shows all the little plane icons
Yeah.
on the. So you see this one plane go ratcheting down the runway as it's about to take off, and they say you hear someone go, "Shit, fuck, stop, stop," and the plane stopped almost immediately. Like it is shot. Like everyone on that flight must have like bashed their face against the seat in front of them.
so
So it does happen.
given that this dude's experience happened at Gatwick, is that just a bad airport then?
uh.
I saw. Oh no, not at Gatwick. That was London Heathrow. Yeah, I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know. I've never
All
been to
right. So I
Gatwick.
mean, okay, London airports are just bad, I guess. I
Yeah, I saw Lady Gaga fall down at London Heathrow. So that's not related. It just, my London airport experience.
the takeaway so far: airports are cursed.
They are a
That
cursed
has
ground.
been known. That has been known since the 70s.
Yes, it has.
The cursed ground of the airport. Um. Yep. So like we have some nice pointers of how things we should know, right? We have a strange tendency to worry about and concentrate our energies precisely on those we cannot control, right? I do that.
Yeah, the bit you have highlighted in pink really stuck out to me because it reminded me of Taoism.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The
Yes.
master approach.
Yes.
Yes. I think that
Yes.
that also is why it stuck out to me. I did not reread these chapters today like I normally do. I just have done the initial read through because I read one chapter last week and one chapter this week in the midst of doing all sorts of things. I've been quite busy. Um, yeah. So the actual hitting the mark is to be chosen, but not to be desired. It's
Yeah.
very. I don't know. Oh no! I want the whole highlight to be pink still. No, orange is the wrong brain color.
Wow.
Not to like, I hate how much I'm digging on this book, but he goes on to talk about struggling with his weight. And
Yes,
you
Yeah.
know
does.
it's a self-help book when there's got to be, some weight struggle.
I was a chubby kid, he says.
Thank you for highlighting that one section.
You're
This is the
welcome.
most important
It's
passage.
helpful. It might be helpful to know where it is on the page.
I'm trying to help find context here, y'all. So, I'm not coming here super strong, and I apologize with like, wow, stoicism. Um, I really was only tentatively familiar with the concept of stoicism before starting this book. I've done some supplemental research in addition to the book, but um, I would say some of the ways he presents it, I get momentarily confused because he's kind of a this is not stoicism, but here is actual stoicism. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I get my brain doesn't immediately compute and I have to reread sections a couple times. Um, and so then I have highlighted here a critical part of growing up and maturing as an adult is asserting more control over one's life, including choices concerning what to eat and how much, whether to exercise, and how diligently, and so forth. And I highlighted that for a similar reason that Chelsea talked about how he starts to talk about his weight struggle, right? Of this is suddenly a very different book in my brain with this sort of chat. But also the oh goodness, I'm gonna try to figure out how to tie this in, but this is where my mind's going. So I've been spending some time talking to coworkers about skill transference, and how I think this is one of the things that's causing a lot of students to really struggle in today's education land. Of it's hard for them to recontextualize skills they've learned if they are not in the exact parameters they learned them in. And so, what I think he's attempting to do is a lot of skill transference. He's trying to demonstrate that the things that Stoicism has to offer is applicable in a lot of places, without, I think, doing it very elegantly. So, like, I see where he's going, and it's something I attempt to do in my classroom as well, because I teach a subject the students don't understand why they have to take my class. Why are they there? um, you'd be shocked high schoolers are not absolutely fascinated by art history for some reason.
Shocking.
I would
Outrageous.
never have believed that if you hadn't said it.
I know. Like, what do you mean you don't want to listen to a lecture on the illuminated manuscripts throughout the last 3 centuries? I'm like, what? Okay. Anyway.
I do.
You mean you want me to spend 20 minutes talking about the Book of Kells? What? All right. So anyway, but trying to attempt to demonstrate the skill transference, right, that Stoicism has to offer of how to approach life is what I generously think he's really trying to do. You know?
Yeah, I think there is a I follow the organizational structure he's using for presenting these ideas. It reflects how I feel my brain works, but I don't think it's a good approach for writing a book. And so he hops from idea to idea, then back to his main point, and then drifts way over, and then tries to connect that back to the main point. But that's hard for people to read, I think.
Yep. Um.
Or maybe he just needs to have it edited slightly better. I think the
Yeah.
structure can work that way. It just isn't expertly executed. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of good ideas in here could be presented in different orders. I think, like
Mhm.
just doing it just slightly different would have been good, but
Well, and
Can I-
I think like in support of that, we've got this line here: "It is to be accepted with equanimity. It is chosen but not desired," as Cicero put it. Yeah, okay, but you've already made that point, and you're
Yeah.
just you're trying to connect back repeatedly, and it's not hitting the way that I think he intends it to.
Mhm.
I'm wondering from people who are more familiar with Stoicism, because something that I'm kind of struggling with is as I'm reading this, and again, I didn't read the first two, but I did listen to everybody else's review of the first two chapters, the video that you had on YouTube, which was delightful and made me regret that I missed it. But I like hearing how everybody else was talking about it. I went into reading this set of chapters as okay, whatever. I mean, we're reading philosophy. No, almost unanimous. Like, you will always have some kind of disagreement or question about something somebody's saying. Like, it's very, very hard to find somebody else who has similar enough experiences or comes to the same conclusions from their vastly different experiences that you can say, yes, this feels true to me, right? This makes sense completely. Very rare. So, okay, that's fine. How do we then apply a sort of let's take in what this person has to offer, what we can learn from it, and then just if we think that something else is flawed, which we very clearly across the board agree that this particular author has a lot of issues with this book or the topic itself potentially, but I guess I'm running into the question of how much of some of these well, sometimes it's somewhat the logic doesn't always follow some of what he's saying. It's like I see why you're saying that, but also that like you're missing the point or you're not quite getting there, or take another step after this. And maybe that happens later in the book, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe this is
Maybe.
the groundwork, but what especially as we're talking in this section here where he's trying to apply these ideas to very real struggles that he's gone through and how his mental place has transitioned over the course of his life, and sort of, oh, now I understand, like I'm enlightened in this way that I know that some things are within our control and some things are not. But then while I'm reading through this and I'm going, well, he still doesn't get it, he still doesn't understand that some of the things that he's saying aren't under his control it's just in a broader sense. Like the thing about a promotion, yeah, the morning of announcement of the promotion, there's not much you can do. But if you planned a year ahead or 2 years ahead, or I mean, there are people who plan really, really far in advance to make sure that they do have that kind of career progression, and the things that they choose to do absolutely have that effect. And yeah, it's never 100% because there are other people involved, but I mean, especially in some industries, it's pretty reliable that you can check all the boxes. Like, you can have quite a bit of control if you plan far enough ahead and execute appropriately. And yeah, the night of, the night before you're going to announce the promotion is not the time for you to do those things
To
for that
worry.
particular
Yeah.
promotion.
It's too
But
late.
that doesn't,
You've either done
yeah,
the
at
work
that
or you
point.
haven't.
But it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that it's completely outside of it. And I'm wondering how much of that is maybe his application of the philosophy or his misunderstanding of it in terms of things that have happened in his life that he needs to accept and feel better about versus actual teachings of Stoicism. I
think,
find like he's an unreliable narrator somewhat in this
yeah.
context.
Well, aren't we all?
I don't know what a reliable narrator is.
Yeah. I have to say that's some great points, and it is often one that I reflect on of like the catch between living this modern life and how do I move through it mindfully, right? Like you don't want to live too long in your plans about the future, but also if you literally, it feels like if I were to live only in the moment forever, I would never achieve goals. But maybe that would be okay because I wouldn't have any. I don't know. Finding that balance, of what does that actually look like is really
I mean,
difficult.
yeah, it's learning to plan for the future while being present, because the present is the only foundation you have to build
Yeah.
towards. Uh,
Yeah, I can't neglect the present because I'm planning for the future, but I also can't not plan for the future at all. Yeah.
right.
Right. And at the same time, I mean, even using his example of the promotion, I mean, I joined the team that I'm currently on about a year and a half ago. And at the time, I was the junior analyst. And there was really no option for me to proceed forward in that career path to like the next role up, which is a consultant, except that the senior analyst at the time left. So there, I mean, not to give him too much credit, because I guarantee you I will never give him an ounce of credit more than he needs. I do see where he's coming from in that you can do everything within your power, but there is this element of
Chance, essentially.
Yeah.
well, I want to say there's what, in psychological terms, the locus of control. And there is an element of external locus of control at play.
There was a line here. I'm trying to find it, but it's basically like the universe does what it will.
It does what it does. Yep, the
Yeah,
universe
that's it.
does
Yeah,
without your wishes.
right. Yeah, it's the same thing. You can do everything exactly right, but the universe doesn't give a shit.
Right.
I do feel like this example is in keeping with his overall sort of thesis. But he is not very illuminating when it comes to, like, he tries, but yeah, it's I don't know. I feel like this could be less cumbersome.
It's weird because I feel like this is supposedly more approachable than like meditations, but it doesn't seem like it to me.
Yeah.
Part of my wondering about that is it's kind of like a self-selection bias. We don't see this as inherently relatable, but we're a few steps up the ladder, you know?
Yeah.
We're
This book is
It's true. We all have like
definitely mass
enough
market
passing
self-help.
familiarity. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
Um I think sorry, my brain's going back to something Lee said about the I forget how you said it, Lee. How to approach the book, I guess. And I think about that quote by like Francis Bacon of like some books should be tasted, some devoured, but only a few should be chewed and digested thoroughly. And I guess my immediate, and perhaps my opinion will change in further chapters, my immediate thought is just maybe this isn't a chewed and digested book.
This might be a little nibble kind of a book.
Like nibble at it,
We're
catch the
having to
real
eat
stuff.
around the pith.
Right. This is like, oh, these are some Jesus. Like these are some interesting ideas. Maybe I'll go find other books that go through them better, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Or more directly, I suppose, because this does seem to be also a catch-all. Like, here's all of the stoicism that you could possibly want.
All of the stoicism. And maybe
No,
that's
I
a
am-
good thing, though. Maybe that will inspire some thoughts and be a great starting, like a
Mhm.
springboard.
I'm
He does.
wondering. Sorry, it's just for quite a few pages now. He's been making the same point in different ways,
Mhm.
and I'm wondering who he thinks doesn't get it yet after all of these, because he's still going.
I mean, the reality though is some people can have incredibly difficult to change minds, and I can imagine people still reading this far and being like, "No, I get to wallow in my thoughts." Although
That's
those
a bad
people might
Stoic
have
reading.
stopped reading the book.
I mean, there is a point to be made for repetition,
Mhm.
so that it sticks better. I mean, Pema Children kind of does the same. I mean, she also keeps coming back to this
She does.
bodhicitta, mindfulness, and all that stuff. I mean, yeah,
Right, but she's got a few different things she hits though. It's not just a one note situation like this
yeah,
is.
okay.
Yeah,
That's-
there's development when she comes back to an idea, whereas I feel here it's like, so see the point again. Like,
Right.
I will say I am eternally biased in Pema's favor. I really love her writing style. Like I really
listen,
do.
we stand Penma. Like,
I am a fangirl.
we're posting fan cams in the book club chat. Like,
It's just like, oh, my girl Pema, she's so good.
Carry us along, Tess. We
All
must
right.
keep moving.
I do like the point he does make here of making a distinction between your internal goals that you do have control over and external. Once again, though, he is kind of hitting that same point again. I do wonder if maybe there's some meat of this text he could have gotten rid of and gotten to this point just a little faster, and maybe that would have
Like a
felt
Stoic would.
a little more
Ooh.
concise, and that would have felt better for my brain personally. Um,
Could have dropped an anecdote.
yeah, I really feel like the two standout anecdotes from this chapter are the bit about the marksman hitting their target, and then this next one about these Stoics who were sentenced to exile or to execution. Like, these two, I feel like represent the two polar ends of, accepting outcomes. You have what you aspire to do and how it results, and then you have things that are just totally outside of your control and how you respond to them. And I feel like those two really capture what he's trying to get at, and everything else is just rambling.
Love, yeah.
Yes. I only highlighted this because I liked how he pointed out the overlap of the logic. Of the what you can and can't control, and it's endorsed by Buddhism and other philosophical religious traditions.
Yeah,
Always fun.
I liked this passage, the longing for a fig in wintertime thing. I like that passage. It's good.
So the problem with this chapter is that my most favorite parts are actually just direct quotes from Epictetus.
Yes.
I know. Yes.
And so I hit this part, right? He's a direct quote from him. It gets into, you must remind yourself that you love a mortal and that nothing that you love is your very own. And that hit me hard. Oh my gosh. As a new parent, I'm looking at this baby and I'm like, either I'm going to die, you're going to die, something's going to happen. Like
What do you mean? What do you mean either?
both. Well, so
Why
but
are you
One
look,
of them
biased?
is
look,
clearly
one of
immortal.
us does not have to. One of us will not have to experience the death of the other. Like
It's a
That's
so,
Highlander
accurate.
situation.
like one of us will be ignorant to when the other dies. That's just a fact. And so I just was hit hard that, and I'm almost disappointed that the parts of this book that hit me the hardest are not even from the author, I guess. But that's a personal me and more
I
about the
will give
book
him
than stoicism.
I will give him this small amount of grace. He wasn't alive when the good stuff was written. He's here now, so he has to regurgitate it and try and make it his own.
Mhm.
That's the grace I'll give him because he doesn't do a good job of it, but at least he's trying.
He is trying so hard.
He has excellent taste,
Mhm.
shit style.
He writes like the kind of person he is, which is a philosopher who came late of it, who started out in genetics.
Mhm.
An academician. Yeah.
Yeah, like this is an academic non-philosopher who realized later in life, oh shit, I like this philosophy stuff.
Um so when he says it's just a cup, have you guys ever seen Adventure Time?
Yeah.
there's, there's a moment where one of the characters is talking about
Oh
the
yeah.
futility of getting too attached to things. He's like, "You see this mug? This is literally my favorite mug." And then he just yeets it out a window.
And it's
off
gone
into the
now.
distance. It's gone now. I'll never see that mug again.
I have sent the GIF.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh no.
And it's just such a moment that connects with me so hard.
Yep, that's the one.
Yep.
Okay. If there is.
There he goes. There goes the
Oh,
mug.
ah, very good.
I don't know if there's much else in this chapter that anyone wants to talk about.
This is just the same point
I didn't read it, so I don't know.
I would like to note that I was not expecting to see Prime Minister Erdogan.
Yeah.
I was not expecting to see that name in the book.
That was I
Oh,
remember
hello.
being like, oh,
Same,
because
yeah.
I'm using the audiobook, and so I was just like, oh, okay.
Oh, wait, hold on, what?
Surprise. Let's see. And then really, like he just hits it again. Few things are under our control. Like
A
that's
strong
really
reminder of the fundamental principle. You mean outright stating the thing you've said 17 times now?
yeah. I would say very strong reminder. It's chapter 4.
Well, real quick, because I do actually have something to say.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
The I appreciate that he's saying, Stoicism was there for me in my time of need during a coup d'etat. Well, yeah, but you're also a Westerner of wealth traveling abroad. Like, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Even if there's a coup happening around you. Like, they don't just go killing everybody in a coup. They
Yeah.
kind of have an intentional goal for who they're going after.
What?
You're fine.
You're not just supposed to start beheading everyone?
I mean,
You know,
there's no guarantee there either, though.
That's true. Like, but at the same time, there's like a lack of. He needs to check his privilege.
Check your privilege.
Yeah.
Anyways, chapter 4,
Chapter 4. Um,
the bad one.
it's
And
not
what
the
chapter
bad
it
one.
was.
I had a harder time personally pulling as many meaningful ideas from it.
Yeah.
This is one I skimmed a little bit more. I tried to sit down and read it more thoroughly, and personally, I was just having a hard time connecting with it. And maybe I was in a bad place when I tried to read the chapter. I will allow, but I just did not get as much meat from it, I guess. Um,
Yeah, so
substance. I say meat as if I eat meat. I am a vegetarian.
You know what the problem is? This chapter is very heavy on him, on his own philosophizing, and very light on Epictetus.
Bring us more epic titties.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will try to find big naturals later.
Oh God.
We've
What have I
already.
done?
I mean, you didn't do this. The internet is doing it without your approval.
Ah, so I don't have to
The
worry
internet
about
will do everything without your approval.
Why would you ever?
It
What
doesn't
I
need
mean,
you.
what are we reading? What do you mean worry?
Big
That's right.
naturals
That's
are
right, I don't have to worry
outside
about
of your control.
This book club is on fire.
Hi,
doing
We're
I
all
so good,
love
you
failing.
that
guys.
this is being recorded.
We're
I
all
love that this is
failing.
being recorded.
I want you all to
I'm
know.
I'm looking forward to the eventual YouTube shenanigans.
It's okay. Nobody ever comments on the YouTube videos. It's fine. We're fine.
You say that.
We need
You
to
say that, and
start
yet
spamming
sometimes
these links out.
one of these days something is going to get crazy, and we're going to have a lot of viral attention, and
I
we're
will
going
tell
to hate
you,
it.
we have a wild amount of 103 views on one of our videos, and I cannot figure out why.
That's awesome.
Well, with how much we're like railing against the author in this one, I would not be surprised if we get a cease and desist.
No,
yeah,
no,
the
no.
author finds us and says, "Shut up."
I would love to see that happen. That would be the funniest goddamn thing. Oh, really? Cease and desist? Let's see your demand letter, son.
I'd probably just take it down. I'm gonna be honest. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry.
Oh man.
So living our lives according to nature, he goes into that, and some of the characteristics therein. I'm not 100% sure why Charles Darwin came into this, except that he talked about nature things, and he gets a little bit into that.
It's because
Um,
he's a scientist and he needs to flex that he
it just feels
actually.
like a little stretch. Yeah, it does feel like a small flex. Like, look, science. I bring in the science. I'm hoping in later chapters maybe it feels more like a natural combination of the Stoic philosophy and his science background. But here, after the preparation we were given in the chapters 1 through 3, this feels just kind of weird, I guess.
I mean, yeah, just a bit.
Um. Oh, I did like. Let me form my thought.
No.
No thoughts, vibes only.
The objections come from 2 lines of reasoning. We have our plasticity, which is limited, fair. And then his second point was that it seems that diversity. Oh, yeah. So he spends this chapter talking about what sets humans apart from animals, how are we very different, and um, or how are we exactly the same as the animals. And ultimately, he seems to really just come down to agreeing that it's because we're rational on some level that we can be rationed with. And so this quote by Epictetus is, "For what is man a rational animal, subject to death? At once we ask, from what does the rational element distinguish us? From wild beasts? From what else? From sheep and the like."
Miserable pile of
Miserable little pile of
secrets.
secrets. Yeah, thank you, thank you. It's
Yeah, you exactly.
We are
That's
miserable.
what video games taught me.
Epictetus and Dracula, same person.
So he proves that we're rational and we have some ethics. And that seems to be the 2 primary things that really separate us from anything else.
We like to think we have ethics.
Okay, yeah, no.
We
See
try.
this whole thing.
Big vote
What do you
here
mean?
to just read Epictetus instead.
You know, he might be an
Discourses.
excellent choice for next time.
Yeah.
Do like all of this talking about like, oh yes, we're the only animal with rationality. Do we know that? I mean, come on.
I'm pretty sure we're not, but okay.
I'm also pretty sure we're not. Yeah.
It's just, there's a semantic issue here where it's like how you define that determines whether or not I agree or not, because rationality boils down to stimuli, basically.
Yep.
Like
the ability to use reason.
Yeah,
that's not just us.
If I press this button, I get a treat. If I press this button, I get electrocuted. Mice will choose the treat button. That's no different than reasoning.
However, you could also say that that's merely conditioned.
Who
You
cares?
could also say that rationality is merely
guess.
conditioned.
And I
But
do
you also
frequently.
have birds who can solve puzzles and
Mhm.
like octopus. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, we are very
That
much
also requires
not.
reasoning.
Yeah, we are very much
However-
not the exclusive arbiters of reason.
I think
Right.
my question here is, what does this chapter add to the book?
Also,
That-
how would we recognize like ethics that aren't our own? Sorry to
I would
interrupt,
say
but,
that this chapter, this paragraph over here adds something, which is that it kind of explains Stoic doctrine can be thought of as a combination of intuitionism, empiricism, and rationalism.
That's nothing. That's a big
And-
nothing burger.
Those are words.
I get where you're coming from, but
Yeah.
like everything he says going on here on out, like Stoics believe that children start out as, intuition. Like, no, they don't, because this is like a reverse chronology.
My child is
Yeah,
definitely a potato.
intuitionism, empiricism, and rationalism are like modern schools of thoughts. I understand you're trying to apply them as like modes of thinking, but that's not what they are. They're schools of thought.
Mm-hmm.
I
I'm gonna
feel
get
like we're not going to
into a
stop
fist
tearing this
fight.
down.
Y'all so spicy with the author.
Well, they shouldn't have put so many jalapenos in the book.
This is a very
You said jalapenos. Okay.
jalapeno. Is not the spiciest pepper.
Not even close.
I don't know what's happening, but keep going. It's great.
I could eat one plain and still be fine.
God damn, I love this song.
Another
Okay.
figure. Also, does he reference this figure? I don't think he does. He just included it as like, I can
It's just
draw.
there.
There's nothing referencing the figure. It's just there to like illustrate what he's talking about. And like, sir, what you're talking
just
about
the
is a group of
chapters.
circles. You don't need a group
Oh,
of circles
man.
as a figure.
Is this the monkey sphere?
Yeah. This is self, family, some other small group.
Oh man.
Self, family,
can-
citizens, countrymen, humankind.
It's so stupid that he added this.
Why
Who is
are
it
we?
for?
People
Especially
who know
because-
about the monkey sphere?
Especially because in the PDF copy of the book, so like portrait, not landscape there,
Yeah.
the paragraph in which he quotes, what's his name? Hierocles, the paragraph in which he quotes Hierocles describing this graph is on the same page as this image.
Ah, that'd be nice.
But there's at no point, like it's labeled figure 4.1, and at no point does a reference to figure 4.1 show up in the text at all.
Mm.
It's just, hey, here's this paragraph, and then just in
Here's the
case you missed the
paragraph
paragraph,
describing it.
here's a circle. Here's an
Yeah.
image of the paragraph.
It
Just in case.
almost
And so-
looks that it's called like figure 4.1 or whatever because the whole image and like subtext was just taken from something else.
It
Oh,
is
I
a different
wish.
font. It is a different font.
Yeah.
In our last meeting, I said I was unable to find the additional PDF I got with the audiobook. I found it, and this is included. Explain to me why it's included because it's not referenced.
Right.
Why are we even reading this book? Didn't someone recommend it?
We voted on it.
Chelsea, you recommended this book.
Listen, I did not read either of these. I went and tried to find modern books about Stoicism, and I found two. And I was surprised that this one won because the other one is way better reviewed. And the only
Well-
reason I voted for these two was because someone had said that we should do Stoicism, like a Stoic book.
That was
So
true. That came
that's
up.
my defense.
I would
Well-
like to I would like to note real quick, just this is something like a throwaway. We already went past it, but a couple pages ago, he references the age of reason,
Mhm,
and then
yep,
suggests that that's between 6 and 8.
yep, about here.
The most reasonable of people.
Right? Yeah.
I get the idea. You feel like you can start to reason with a child around that age, I guess. I mean,
but I wouldn't
I'm
call it
also-
the age of
I
reason.
wouldn't call it the yeah. I think that it
Yeah,
might
I
be
feel like
a
that's
call
coming
out.
from somewhere, but it's not really referenced.
This
Well,
isn't
so
the first time I've heard this either.
Because this isn't like his
Well-
thought alone. I've heard
No.
this
Just click the link. Let's
this
click the
may
link.
be
Okay.
Yeah.
just
click the link.
worded badly. What he may
okay,
be meaning
so-
is that around that age we are kind
There
of
it is.
starting to develop something
Oh no, it just took me back to
resembling
this page.
reason.
All right,
I
so the
don't
so-called
think
7-year-old shift into innovations now well-established scientific concept, neuroscience. The 5-7-year shift, the age of reason and responsibility from 1996.
Gonna look that up real quick.
This sounds like a book
I'll-
that would have made me read in college.
I
I
don't know
also-
who said this,
Yeah.
but
'Cause-
I think you're right in that this is when a child starts to be able to be reasoned with.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But again, my issue here is that he's saying that like the Stoics recognize this, and at this point they need to start shifting into empiricism and rationality. Like, he provides no proof for what he's saying here that the Stoics thought that this was the case.
Mm.
I also use the phrase intuited by the ancients, and that just no.
That's some ancient alien shit.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things where it's like I know what you meant, but you said it bad.
Avery is going to be
Mhm.
so sad she missed out on ancient
That's like
aliens
this
this
whole
week.
book right now. I know
Yeah.
what you meant, but you said it kind of bad.
Wait, that's why I feel comfortable finishing this book out, because we are all able to read through whatever this man has written to get to the point.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
And
I
then
mean,
just
I'm a
shit
firm
on the rest
believer.
of it.
Yeah.
I also, it's kind of fun reading a book that wasn't like highly reviewed. That's just sort of a little bit out there.
hmm
It's a
Well,
clunker, but that's okay.
I'd rather read a book that forces me to think and re-reference things than to read a book going, "Oh yeah, it's great. Yes."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that we're
All the
able
time.
to point out the flaws in this.
This is the kind of book you chew on and then spit out.
Oh my goodness.
This is chewing tobacco.
Everybody's
Oh.
being very harsh on it. I mean, obviously he made a lot of strange jumps between things and whatnot, but and I don't know how many books he'd written before this or about what. If he's a geneticist, scientists generally are not the best writers, so I wouldn't be surprised. But because they're not taught how to really write, and the standard's very low in the field. However, it seems to me that he's almost writing, although he's saying the book is about Stoicism specifically, it reads like introductory philosophy. Not a book that's introductory philosophy, but it reads like somebody who has just been introduced to learning philosophy, and the way that different questions come up and how he addresses them sounds very much like this entire chapter the point of the chapter seems basically to be like, oh, here are all these really basic questions, like what makes humans different than anything else, or why does it matter? And since those are very central questions to Stoicism, of that we should act a certain way because we are humans, and like what is the ideal human, and things that are very Greek, especially in philosophy. But
Yeah, it reminds
you
me a
know,
lot
there's
of
a
the
paragraph.
course. Yeah.
If you look, I don't know what page this is because it seems we have different versions here, but there's a paragraph that starts, "In the end, it seems that neither biological variation nor cultural diversity can be reasonably deployed to reject what the ancients thought was obvious. We are a very different species from anything else that planet Earth has produced over billions of years of evolution, both for better and for worse. In particular, and this is the crucial point of interest to us here, what makes us so different is not something as trivial as the absence of a bone. Rather, it is our social and mental abilities. The very abilities that make it possible for me to write the book you are reading, and that make you care about reading it." And I think that was the point of him writing the entire chapter. Yes, obviously, we care less about reading it now because we cast many doubts on what he's saying. But for somebody else who might have been, I mean, generally people who are writing something or who are releasing a course or a coaching session, anything like that, it's not always that they think that they are the most advanced. It's that they think they're a little bit more advanced, a little farther along on their path than somebody else who their audience isn't us. The audience for this man is people who were like he was some years before, and he thinks that his path can help them to come to what he now has as his understanding about how life works that has been beneficial to him. And if we can judge it from that standpoint of maybe he's farther down on the path than people who've dedicated a lot of time and resources to studying and even thinking about these exact topics. And he is, of course, coming at that from a scientific background, and he's trying to use them to discount what has said, and then shows that actually it doesn't really matter. At the end, they still have a point, and he doesn't always explain that the best, but I think that this was what stood out to me as the reasoning behind why he's jumping around in all these different places. And maybe if we keep that in mind, that he has a purpose for writing this. Maybe we aren't the right audience for it, but there are still, I mean, it's not all garbage either.
No, you're right. I think you have a great point.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel
we
like
just like taking the piss with him.
right. I feel like it's important to note that we're dunking on this dude's rhetorical style, but a lot of the stuff in here is pretty good.
Yeah.
The content itself is good.
Yeah.
In terms of like, a lot of my critiques have been stylistic. What makes us so different is not something as trivial as the absence of a bone. That was funny.
Well, okay, so
because he earlier references the penis bone. Like, that's funny. That's funny. So I mean, even stylistically, he's got. I agree. This is for a different audience than people who have more than a cursory introduction to philosophy. And I like I said, I think we can read past the issues we have with it, even if those issues are less issues and more audience, how it's targeted. There is value here for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Beginner's mind.
I have enjoyed what I've read of it. Like, there are things that I'm noticing are extremely flawed, but what isn't?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think this actually kind of works for him. While I don't find the writing style to be particularly enticing, secretly it is, because I like to keep reading it, seeing where else he's going.
Yeah.
And being like, come on, you can't possibly, and then just keep reading.
It's like a slow motion train wreck.
Right.
Like, come on, you're not really gonna, oh, you are. Oh, okay.
You really did that.
Max, I don't understand why I can't hear you.
I think it's incredible that Max is coming out of you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I figured. But I've been muting on and off this whole time, so...
Well, I'm using your mic now.
Okay, now that I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool beans.
We did it.
A couple of things that I was looking stuff up in the background here. This is at least his 11th book.
Oh wow!
Oh no!
It is his.
Well, then this is probably very deliberately a stylistic choice.
Yeah,
I was going to say very much
targeting an audience. Yeah.
This is his at least his 11th book. The list appears to be incomplete. However, it is maybe his 3rd book on philosophy.
Okay.
Yeah. Most of his stuff is evolution, like evolutionary science and genetics, because that is what his primary thing is. Also, another thing, I didn't really realize this. The idea of the age of reason being 7 is Catholic.
Oh.
This dude is incredibly ex-Catholic. He talks about it a lot. And that explicitly, on the completion of the 7th year, a minor is presumed to have the use of reason. That's Catholic canon law. And putting it in that context, I'm like, all right, I see why he immediately jumped to that. So. Other things, he has announced as of a couple of years ago a shift away from Stoicism into some sort of new, like, syncretic thing that he's calling neo-skepticism.
Oh
Interesting.
no.
Oh no.
Okay.
This is like a few years out from Jordan Peterson to Electric Boogaloo.
Here,
Uh-huh.
everyone, have a fun Medium blog to read.
So because giving him flowers, I think this last bit where he goes from talking about what distinguishes humans from sheep and wild animals to talking about these what Des was calling the monkey ring. Is that it? Monkey ring?
The monkey sphere.
The monkey sphere.
Monkey sphere.
Mm-hmm.
I the connection is very loose, I feel, but the monkey sphere aspect, I see the value to the rest of the book there, and I just wish he would have spent more time expanding on that. I feel like that's where the interesting elements come from. One, because I see the applicability, but two, it reminds me of Pemba's, extending loving kindness in these sort of concentric rings. Start with yourself or
Yeah.
someone you love. If it's easier to do it with someone you love than yourself, then
Maitri,
maybe
I think.
expand it out
Or is it
to
Toglin?
the people directly connected to you. Then, slightly out, slightly out. You don't have to start with the person you hate.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been an interesting area for him to explore more.
Mm-hmm.
Did it. We did it.
We did it.
We did
Indeed.
it.
Indeed.
Yay.